Well, here we are. We're exactly halfway done with our 8-week journey of mindfulness practice, and hopefully stress relief, reducing franticness in our lives, coming into our being and balancing out all the doing that we are pressed into by life. And so far we've meditated on the body and breath. We've meditated on the body as a whole and different parts of our body. We've meditated on the way breath moves in our body. And that was really just a beginning. It was to get us grounded in the here and now, which is always in the body. I like to say to people, you can't feel this yesterday or tomorrow. So the body is always our anchor, and the breath is a really nice anchor. It's a constant rhythm of our living being. So then we also meditated on movement. So we moved our bodies and we focused on that experience, and that allowed us to begin to also informally notice our presence in the present moment in our lives in random experiences or in specific experiences. So we've been trying to turn some mundane experiences into actual moments of awareness of the moment. And all of this has been at the service of helping us to kind of experience ourselves a little bit separate from our reactions. We learned that aversive mode, which is that mode that we get in when we're threatened, is not a very good or creative place to be for problem solving or living, and that mindfulness can help us stay out of that aversive mode when it's not necessary. We also learned to meditate on sound and thought. So we've been able to pay attention to the way sounds flow in and out of our experience, kind of without any effort, and how our labels of those sounds are different than the actual sound, which is another way of teasing apart our thinking and labeling mind from our actual experiencing self. And then we were able this last week, to meditate on how thoughts just kind of spontaneously flow through our experience, and that we really don't have to be attached to them or involved with them as much as we are. And we were invited to notice how some thoughts will actually wake up a reaction inside of our body, and maybe would catch us and get us caught up in a reactivity, which would spawn more thoughts and more reactivity, and kind of send us down a spiral of stress. And that discovery, that ability to see how we fall into stress and get stuck there, trying to think our way out of it or plan our way out of it, how that doesn't serve us very well, and how much better it works just to ground ourselves in the present moment. So we've also learned about the 3-minute breathing space. We've learned about finding a way to introduce mindfulness rapidly and carefully into a moment, and then how that really gives us another dip in the pool of mindfulness, if you will, or a little sip of it, something to sustain us as we move through time. And this has all been building up, and this week is really where this practice takes shape as something incredibly useful. And as it says in the book, many people would kind of like quit at this point because what we're getting ready to do this week is really interesting, and it may be initially kind of difficult. The benefit won't be apparent instantly. It'll happen through practice. And what we're going to be working on is a mindful awareness of difficulty in our lives, and holding that in the space of awareness without doing anything, and kind of letting our body respond to that, and then tracking our body's response. This is a way of observing the way our body could lead us or prompt us to get over-involved in our difficulties and put us in that aversive mode. And the awareness that we're going to practice gives us a little space to not go there necessarily. But we're not trying to produce anything. We're just getting grounded. So the meditation this week is going to be first the body and breath meditation, then the sound and thoughts meditation, and then meditating on a difficulty. Now, how does this work? Well, to meditate on a difficulty, we are grounded in our body and on our breath. We're aware of the flow of thoughts. We're aware how our body is connected to that. So we're kind of in tune with the complex interactions within our being. And then, instead of letting our thoughts pass through our mind, we choose to linger with a thought that presents itself as a problem. So the problem might be something small, like my car needs repair, or a fight we had with a friend or a spouse, or a financial issue. We don't necessarily want to pick the most overwhelming thing at the beginning of this practice, especially. So we pick a problem, and on purpose we hold it in our awareness. He uses the phrase, leaving it on the workbench of the mind, which is a nice metaphor. Like, imagine there's this workspace in our mind where we're dealing with problems, but we're going to set it on the bench and then just be with it. And as we're paying attention to it, then we begin monitoring what happens in our body and using the breath to connect to whatever sensations come up. That means that we're breathing in and out of whatever sensations come up. We're holding all of it in awareness. We're literally being with it, not doing anything. So this is non-doing again. And we're not really thinking about this as problem solving. We're thinking of it as problem holding. Now, what may come out of that is a transformed relationship with the problem. But it's not because we tried. So all this would happen. There's a part of our mind, actually, it's a part of our brain, that is actually working through things, but at the level of body awareness, not thought. And this is a gift we all have, which is a sense of things that we feel in our body. And it's partly, ancient traditions would say that how people choose their path, even in the physical world, but how they choose their path in life and how they make choices and deal with things that come up is through a felt sense in their body, an intuition maybe. And we don't have any chance to encounter that unless we hold things and notice our body's response and stay with it in a compassionate, observing way. So we're kind of tuning into our body as it holds the problem, giving it compassionate, warm attention, and allowing whatever happens to happen. And what may happen is that we may notice things in our body that we never noticed, and we may notice surprises, like we're kind of like, oh, I didn't know that that was there, that when I think of this problem, this little part of my neck tenses up, or my foot wants to tap, or whatever it is, that I know I have a thing I do, like when I'm thinking about problems and I'm not aware of it, I move my hands in a certain way. And I wasn't aware of it until I kind of was meditating one day, and then I noticed my thumb tapping. What is that? Well, I don't really know. I can't analyze it, but it's a felt sense of me encountering a problem. And what happens if I just notice that and give it some space in my awareness? And so this week, we're really hoping, there is a hope here. The hope is that awareness is a better untier of knots than analysis. So the knots in our being, if we pull on this string or pull on that string, we're trying to fix it. We actually make it worse. It's one way of thinking about it. It's kind of a metaphor for awareness seems to loosen everything up. And once everything is looser and more fluid, not as rigid, things can kind of settle in where they need to. And the changes and shifts we may encounter may be subtle, but can be profound. They can give us, and all what it might add up to is getting us out of that owl mode where we're threatened into a more reward mode where we could see our way through to the reward that's inherent in the problem, or that could be there as we move through it in time. We're also going to be invited this week to take that 3-minute breathing space we've been working on. I hope you've really embraced that and practiced it, made it your own. And we're going to be given some opportunities to broaden and deepen that. And I actually want to look at my notes to go over that, because it's really quite incredible what that can do for us. So the first thing is we're going to be invited to not just do that at scheduled times, but actually to kind of see that 3-minute breathing space as our first go-to response when we notice an accumulation of stress. So it's kind of there for us. Like we all do this with various things. Like sometimes when I'm stressed, I'll go grab a cup of tea or a glass of water, or whatever other little habits we do to soothe ourselves. This is one we could do pretty much anytime, anywhere, either in a longer form or an abbreviated form. And the first thing we're going to do is, in that first part of the hourglass, the wide part where we're looking inside and noticing what's going on in there, what's the weather inside, we can actually introduce the idea of narrating to ourselves in our mind words that describe the experience. Like, right now I just ate lunch, so if I looked inside myself, I'd say my stomach is full. There's a little pressure there. I feel satisfied. So those are experiences I'm identifying within myself, and I'm putting words to them quietly, or I can even say them aloud if I have the privacy to do so. Then when I'm narrowing my awareness, where we focus in on the breath, we can actually heighten that experience by saying in our mind, breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. And you can also number it, breathing in 1, breathing out 1, breathing in 2, breathing out 2. And then when we expand out to the whole body, we're going to actually, rather than just resting in the full awareness of our body, we're going to gently explore to see if there's any sense of discomfort, tension, or resistance in the body at that moment. So we're actually looking on purpose for anything that might be tense. Like right now I feel a tiny tension in my upper middle back on the right side. So I would just take my awareness into that and then breathe in to that space and breathe out, letting it go. Breathe in, just continuing to track it in my awareness, and breathe out. Staying with that sensation. If it changes, fine. If it doesn't, fine. Letting it do whatever it's going to do. And if you feel like you have the space, you can elongate that phase of the meditation. Like, stay with the body longer. Stay with the body's discomfort longer. Just notice it and observe it warmly. Like you care. So, and then the invitation is to, as best I can, to bring this expanded awareness of myself, this better attuned self, into the next moments of my day. So, if you think about it, it's we want to get to the place where the 3-minute breathing space, we notice stress building up, we meet it, and we engage it through that breathing space, and we give attention to the stress that's there in our body ultimately, like wherever the tension is. And then we try to carry that awareness of self into the next moments. What this all rests on is the reality, and it's a very physical, brain-based reality, that self-awareness is the best regulator of stress that exists. It's better than any drug, it's better than any outside thing. It does bring things into a calmer place. It doesn't make anything perfect, that's not what it's about. But it grounds us in our own being, and that continues to soothe us as we move through time. The habit releaser this week is really kind of a nice idea, and it's almost springtime, not quite, but is to get a little patch of earth or a pot of dirt and plant some seeds and nurture those seeds. Caring for plants is actually a known kind of happiness inducer. Actually caring for any living thing kind of pulls out of us a certain kind of happiness that's not available otherwise. So I'll look forward to seeing you this afternoon, and we're into week 5. This week, big bonus, the minimum is to do this triplet meditation once a day. So it is kind of a long meditation. It's a longer sit. It's 7 minutes, 7 minutes, and 8 minutes. So that's about over 20 minutes. And but you only need to do it once a day, and you can take Sunday off if you wish. And just the last thing I wanted to say is I do feel so fortunate to have this role in your life, and I feel fortunate that people are showing up, engaging, and really taking this on and starting to notice the benefit. It's one of the most satisfying things I get to do, is to just introduce people to this way of caring for self that they can maintain for years to come, and it makes a big difference. So thank you again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you.